Today's guest on the Winning Teams podcast is Zain Raj. Now, Zain originally comes from India, but has been working and operating in the United States for quite a number of years. He is fascinating and he's got a wonderful take. And I just really, really recommend that you listen to this, you take notes and you do something with it, because you're getting pearls of wisdom here from somebody who has got immense experience across many different industries, but at the highest level. He would be referred to as a futurist, as a visionary leader. He's also an author of a number of books, the most recent one, The Pyramid Puzzle. But he's just got a fantastic take on how businesses need to look at their own businesses, how they need to focus in on the person that they are selling to, not the category, not the segment, but the person they are selling to, and building the business around that. So I really encourage you to really, really lean into this. And I said, take notes, because I certainly took a lot of notes when I was actually doing the interview with Zain, because I just thought he was talking so much sense, and he actually was making something that is quite complex. He was actually making it simple, not easy, but simple. And that is the true mark of a genius. So if you're listening to this podcast, I really would ask you to give us a good review on wherever you do listen to your podcasts, because that's how we get out to many people. But in the meantime, sit back and listen to the immensely enjoyable and thought-provoking Zain Raj. Zain, thank you so much indeed for joining us here on the Winning Teams podcast. So, hailing all the way from Chicago, we're delighted to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Excited to be with you.
So, looking at your background, I wanted to just maybe give a little bit about your background, but just to give a little bit of context here, certainly you would be described as a visionary leader and a business accelerator and a futurist, which is a great way of doing it. You're the chairman and CEO of Shapiro Raj, the consultancy company and you're also a founder of ZedNext. I want to come back to that. But you're also the author of a book that's the Pyramid Puzzle, which is igniting the transformation with the power of trust. You've also written other books. But tell me a little bit more about you, Zain, and why you do what you do.
Yeah. So, why I do what I do is fundamentally built around the simple principle of there isn't a single problem that I see that I don't want to try and solve, right? and over 30 plus years of being in the business of marketing, brand building, and evolution of driving growth on businesses, what I've discovered is I have the ability in some way, shape, or form of understanding human beings, right? To have the ability not just to walk in their shoes, but to actually feel what's going on in their heart, right? Understand what they are thinking, how they're thinking about things. And that became, for a guy who was a CPA, right? And who went into the creative side, suddenly realized that I actually have, and it's a scientific thing, I've got two problems. One is I've got a very, very evenly developed brain, the left side and the right side. But more importantly, I also have ADD, which means I get bored with things very easily. And so I have to look to find problems to solve. And over time, what I've realized, right, having lived in the world of business, the biggest problem every business has is how do I continue to grow? Because if you don't grow, you're going to stagnate and die. And in today's changing environment, if you don't grow, you're going to go backwards so fast, it's not even funny. So that became, it started off as a vocation. It just became a calling after a while. And it's just those kind of problems that I love to solve. And that's why businesses have accelerated. I've been fortunate to work with great people, with great brands and great companies, and have landed up, building billions of dollars of value for them, and allowed me to be reasonably successful along the way. And that for an immigrant who came to this country with nothing except $1,800 and 2 bags, because India in those days was trying to not have Indians leave because they called, we don't want our brain to drain anywhere else in the world. So we won't let you take more than $2,000. I didn't have that. 1,800 is all I had. So I brought that. And they allowed you to take 2 bags. So I brought 1 bag with my clothes and one bag with all of the work I'd done in India in the advertising industry as a way to start the career. But solving problems, for an immigrant, I've done well. Only in a country like America can you actually become somebody.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around saying the kind of the CPA who's gone to the dark side, combined with the futurist and somebody with ADD. That's quite a combination of a triumph.
and which is part of the reason why when I kind of work with people and I work with clients with my teams, I am in some ways an acquired taste, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't really pin people like me down because we have a way of looking at things in a different way. Now, it sounds a little, patting on the back kind of an approach, but it's just, I've now had to live with this context for so long.
Yeah.
I finally appreciated, acknowledged the fact that I am a little weird, and that's okay.
That's okay. And is that kind of part of the reason why you set up that other company, ZedNext, which is very much kind of around that incubation? Was it kind of bringing those ideas and getting people to bring from different places and different mindsets and different backgrounds together to really explore?
So I think that was part of it, John. The true part of it for me is over the last 2 decades, as the world has shifted and evolved, we went from what was a generalist world, right? Where we were, as professionals in the world of business, expected to be generalists. We needed to know a little bit of a lot of things and then put it together, right? As the world became more complex, with data becoming a force and then digital coming in, with technology becoming the driver of all of the evolution in the world, what I saw was there were a lot of people who didn't have the ability to put things together. That was one. The second thing I saw was, people couldn't see into the future and understand what the future could do and what were disruptive forces, or on the other side, what were the forces for good. And as that fragmentation happened, that created a need for a lot of folks saying, how do I take all of these disparate pieces where each specialist is now dealing with their own silo, right? But as you can imagine, you need everybody to be able to work together. They need to find a common purpose, a common mission, a common thing. And so I created ZedNext as an ideas incubator, which fundamentally brings different caliber talent from different places and unites them to solve problems that have impact on companies, on brands, but more importantly, on society. And the one individual that I hold true is that one human being, right? Mm-hmm. And people talk about this, and people talk about I'm in the manufacturing business, I'm in the transportation business, I'm in the consulting industry, right? At the end of it, if you think about it, every business at the end of the day is just a people business.
Mm-hmm. It's relationships.
Right? It's people and relationships. But how do you kind of get the relationships to happen when you have somebody who's grown up in the world of data or in technology? They're speaking different languages. How do you kind of connect them together on a common language? Because for relationships to be sustainable, they've got to be grounded on 3 pillars. Pillar of respect, right? Can I respect you? And can I be respected in reciprocity? Because respect is the foundation of knowledge and what experience. But then can I actually build trust along the way? And then finally, can I build loyalty? And all of that, when you connect those dots, what leads to what I call bonded relationships, right? Which is what kind of creates a ritualization of bringing everybody together in one mission, one vision, and one purpose. So ZedNext was built as a way to bring people who can help decode the complexity of, all of the different languages and nobody understanding each other, to create a common set of language unique to the problem that needs to be solved.
And I think it's a wonderful idea, because one of the things that I would observe, Zain, I'd just be interested in your take on it, is that from working with a lot of the kind of multinationals, one of the things that they would say is that they do not give themselves enough time to actually have that sort of reflection and discussion, that they're so caught up in the busyness of today, which is really quite dangerous. So what you're offering there is an opportunity to take that. Is that something that you have found? Is it something that you feel that executives need to give more time to?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that they're so busy in the business of the business that they don't have the time to think about anything outside of the business of the business, right? So step one is becoming about just getting them to find time and force time. So I think that's one issue. I think the other more fundamental issue that becomes is most people, especially in the larger multinational companies with big processes and procedures that are caught in the business of business, is they lose the context of the world outside and around them, right? What is the biggest problem big multinationals have? Let me tell you a story on this, right? And which is why it's not just ZedNext, but it also kind of relates to the book that you kind of introduced, right? The pyramid puzzle. Is they get so caught up in all the problems of the business because, or the opportunities that they see, that they forget that at the end of the day, the only purpose and the reason for that business to exist is to be able to serve an individual. Because every business has one person that starts the process because that business has something that can solve the problem, right? So we look at categories, and we talked about the fact that big pharma, right, life sciences in the world, they're at the end of the day trying to save a patient or make a patient well, right? Or somebody who's got a disease. As somebody who has a rare form of a blood disorder, a very rare form of cancer, right? I've lived through that in my life. But they're so focused on the therapy and the medication that they sometimes lose touch with what does the patient really need to actually have a better life. And what we've been able to do by bringing external perspectives of people who can see the humanity and give them the ability to experience that is actually creates a fair amount of transformation, even at the senior leadership level. Talk about a large retail company. They were struggling on their business and they were trying to do all sorts of things to figure out what to do to get their business to grow again. And when I went out there, when we talked to the people and said, okay, tell me more about your customer. You know what the answer was? Well, our top decile is 45 to 65. The average household income is $60,000. Average household size is parents and 2.5 kids, right? And then they make 14 visits a year to our stores. And so I guess a timeout. How does a family have 2.5 kids? What's a half kid? I mean, I haven't seen one, right? And they go, but that's the data. I said, no, I want to know who is that human being that's walking into your stores? And they couldn't tell me, right? And so bringing in social scientists, bringing in the kind of ethnographical point of view, and then living with their core customers for 3 days, right? And living their lives from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. on an average. The husband and wife work 5 jobs, 7 days a week, right? They make the money, but you know what they're doing? They're making that money to actually make sure that the kids have a future. Here's a true story of the Segreste family, right? Husband, wife, Juan, Maria, 2 little kids, girl and a boy, and grandma who stays home. Grandpa's in Mexico, works for Patron, right? Making hand glass bottles for Patron tequila. And he sends money here so that the kids have a future. Now, I grew up as an immigrant. I came as an immigrant. Most immigrants send money back, right, to the parents and the country that they came from, because this is the exact opposite. But this company, this retail company did not understand that.
Right.
And so they kept on trying to kind of, talk about, we got great deals, and if you have great deals and you can have your grandma, grandpa over for the kid's birthday, you realize that's not how it works, right? It's the other way around. So large companies are the ones that have the least amount of empathy, because what happens is the more senior you get you're running financials, you're running operations, and you forget that everything that's happening is happening because of the people there. So when you think about AI, it's not about AI is going to change people's lives. AI is going to amplify, empower, right? But human empathy, human inspiration, human idiosyncrasies are the things that power all of that.
Absolutely. And in your new novel, and you do write it as a novel, but the pyramid principle, you actually, you're saying that very often when consultants are brought into an organization to help whatever the business or a brand, you say, well, actually, you know what, they tend to focus on the wrong things. So what are the things they focus on that are wrong, and what are the things they should be focusing on?
Yeah, so it's not that they focus on the wrong things, but they turn out to be the wrong things to focus on if you're trying to solve a problem. So consultants come in, if you look at the consulting industry, very, very smart, very, very talented, accomplished people, but they think about the world from an Excel spreadsheet standpoint, right? They're looking at data and they're trying to solve operational. It tends to lean towards more operational problems, like we talked about, because the company people who bring those people in are trying to solve business-oriented problems. And the thing is, they can help you optimize a business, they can help you get to some direction, but it never really fundamentally solves the issue because they have nobody in there that has the empathy to understand what is the true issue that that human being is facing, right? So if you don't bring a human perspective, and like I said, right, every business is a people business, and you have to serve people. You have to serve your customers, but for the customers to be happy, your employees have to be excited and inspired. And for the employees to be able to do stuff, if you have suppliers, they have to be excited and inspired, right? And all of those things. So consultants tend to focus on operational issues that tend to become more downstream, and they don't have the ability and the capability, because that's not their model, to be human insights based. And getting to human insights requires a whole different set of skills and a whole different set of capabilities and a whole different set of kind of people, right? And I think that's what that's what I expound, and I basically talk about human at the center of everything should be the place you start. And that's one of the ways we've helped transformation. That's why I write it about in the book is very simple. If you have a problem, don't start with your operational issues. Start with, why is my customer no longer buying from me? Why is my customer buying from somebody else? Oh, but do I actually even know my customer? And that's why I made that comment. 90 times out of 100 when we come in, or 9 times out of 10, they have no idea who the customer is.
Yeah, it's kind of staggering, isn't it? The one thing that you do say is that you identify trust. I mean, we all value trust, but you identify trust as being key to business success. And I mean, it's motherhood and apple pie. No one's going to say, oh no, you should ignore trust. I mean, no one's going to say that. But when you talk about trust in the context of a business, what do you actually mean by that? What does it mean to actually build and create and maintain trust?
That's a great question. I think that's a foundation of the thesis. So trust is the most overused word in personal lives and business, but it's the least understood word, or the most misunderstood word in personal life and in business. So if you look at any business and you ask to see the studies that they do, the tracking studies that they do, the product stuff, right? Every one of them has a trust question. They all track trust, but they do nothing to deal with trust, because trust is just one attribute as part of a lot of attributes that the business believe are important to them. Now, why is trust really important, right? And it is mother and apple pie. But why is it not understood? Let me tell you a story, right? Because let me actually start with the definition of trust. So very simple definition. Trust is about setting clear expectations or making a clear promise, and then meeting and exceeding it consistently, right? That's why it's such an easy idea, but so hard to execute, right? And why is it hard to execute? So let me tell you a story. United Airlines. I'm not picking on them as uniquely the one. Almost every airline I fly, and I fly, as you can imagine, a lot. I'm sure as you do, right? So United Airlines talks about, we're part of fly the friendly skies, friendly staff, friendly people, friendly experience, all of that, right? And then once with COVID, we sanitize the planes, we clean the planes, we kind of, clean the bathrooms, everything's gonna be great. I traveled a lot during COVID because I got COVID before COVID became fashionable. Got it in November of 19, right? But coming back from Asia through Europe. And so I was traveling pretty much through COVID because I already had COVID, so I'm no longer scared of it. So I walk in, I was flying United, right? Walk into the plane. And like, oh, it's all sanitized, Mr. Raj, you're going to be safe, everything's good. I walk in, and as I come around the corner from the entrance, the first thing I see on the floor is a toothpick. And then I walk to my seat, which was 3E. Right in front of 3E, there was a crumpled facial tissue. Right? And this is a plane that's come in supposedly cleaned and sanitized before I came on board. So I look at it and go, I no longer feel safe. Right? And then obviously, therefore, I don't no longer feel friendly to anybody, right? Because if somebody's used that tissue and the toothpick, otherwise I would be on the floor, right? It's not going to clean. People, every company gets a big aspect of their promise right, but trust is not built on doing the big things right. Trust is about doing the smaller things right every time. And that's why trust is so hard to earn, because a lot of companies do not understand the impact of what those small things are, right? That can just change your entire mindset. And once you break trust, it's very hard to re-earn. And that's kind of the dimension that I talk about. So it's no longer mother and apple pie. It's just about what's your promise. If your promise is fly to friendly skies, are you delivering that on every interaction? And are you delivering the dimensions of friendly? The dimensions of friendly is not garbage on the floor of the plane and the fact that there's crumbs on the seat that I'm going to sit on, and you told me to sanitize. It's the most unfriendliest experience, right? Yeah. That's the problem that every company has. I'll give you another. I mean, I can tell you stories about this.
So, I mean, if you take that as a really good example of trust from a customer perspective, but you also have the other constituents, which are the employees and suppliers. What are the pressure points for trust for the employees and suppliers?
Yeah, so let's start with suppliers, right? What do suppliers want when they work with any company? Suppliers want to feel that they are true partners at helping grow the company and its business, right? And serve the customers the best they can. But how do most suppliers get treated? They get treated as vendors. So if you go back and look at the top 100 companies, do they have supplier policies or do they have vendor policies? Okay, 92 out of the top 100 companies have vendor policies, not supplier policies, right? So when you use the word vendor, what happens? You're not a partner, right? You are somebody who is going to give me a commodity, and I'm going to treat you as that. So what do partners want? They want to be treated fairly. They want to be, you expect to be paid on a specific amount of time. They expect to have a consistent revenue stream from you, right? They expect, hey, that you are not going to every 6 months tell me to cut my price again, right? And send me more. That is not partnership behavior. And that's why there is no trust, because the expectations that a supplier has when they come to a company is that I am going to give you stuff that's going to make you successful. Yes, I'm doing my part. Why are you not reciprocating? So reciprocity, right, is meeting consistently expectations. Employees. What do employees expect from a company? Employees expect to be critical stakeholders of the company. You will treat me well, right? You will pay me fairly. You will allow me to have a life with my family. As work is a way to support my family. Companies have a lot of policies. And then what do? They set up a policy, then they evolve a policy, and that breaks it. So employees are no longer treated at a lot of companies as true owners and operators of the business, even though they're delivering, right? All of the outcomes that you need. And they are the interface with the end consumer and your customers that you're serving. And so they don't feel trusted. And so they don't trust you, right? All the processes and timesheets, all the processes on you missed that day. It is the context of it is different. So talking about, I'll give you an example of Peloton, right? So early stages of COVID, no, we stopped going to the gym. My wife goes, we still need to work out. So let's get a Peloton bike. I'm like, okay. So we spent $3,000, got a wonderful Peloton, right? 7 months ago, Peloton basically said, hey, we're doing a recall because the seat bar is defective and they're having people get hurt because as they're cycling, they're breaking. So I signed up for a recall 6 months ago, right? My bar has cracked. So now I can't ride my bike. 4 months into it, I reached out and I said, hey, where is my seat bar? I can't use your product. Well, after holding on a call for an hour and a quarter, I finally get this person who's, in a call center somewhere. Well, we have a short supply of this, and it will still take us time. I said, can you please give me a timetable? Because, I've got a $3,000 piece of equipment that's sitting out there that I can't use because without a seat bar, I can't sit on a bike, right? Well, we don't know. We can't give any specifics. Still going to be 90 to 120 days from now.
Wow.
Okay, so I said, okay, great. But I have been being charged for the subscription, right? $65 a month for us to use. Can I please get a refund on my subscription for this period of time until I get that? Then you can start. Yes, well, that's not in our policies. I said, can you please help? Let me review to the supervisor. We'll get back to you shortly. Said, how short is short? Well, in the next 48 hours. It's been a week and a half, and I've not heard back, and I've sent 3 emails. Now, think about it, right? This is a company that's built on experience, right? They're kind of trying to get you connected. It's an important part of my daily ritual, or at least used to be.
Yeah.
But for the last 6 months, I haven't been able to ride my bike. And so go figure. Now think on how do I trust? And so when I called the employees again, I said, sir, sorry, we can't tell you. We don't know. We are sending emails to the corporate office and we're waiting for answers.
Extraordinary, isn't it? If I go back to your book, The Pyramid Puzzle, and your protagonists in there, the 3 key protagonists that you bring in about saving a legacy business that's in trouble. But one is is a business professor, Joseph Chandler, right? And that's kind of, okay, get that why the business professor is in there. But then the other 2, one is a social scientist, and the other boyfriend is a philosophy major. Now, I kind of get the first one because I understand, but how do the other 2 disciplines relate to business?
Yeah, so I think at a foundational level, if we go back to the context of humanity, right? Like it's human-centered. If you think about human-centered insight as a foundation, what Professor Chandler brings is modern management principles, because that's what he teaches at Booth. Gabby is a social science major, and she basically did an undergraduate program in sociology. And social sciences, as you know, is foundationally built around understanding how human beliefs connect with human behaviors, right? Sociology, anthropology, psychology, etc. And the reason why she is one of the critical characters is to understand people, you need to be able to understand how they feel, how the feelings express back into the behavior, how society and interaction between individuals have to happen, and how you can impact and improve and empower those interactions, right? And so that brings that human dimension that normal consulting, as we talked earlier, does not incorporate.
Yeah.
So that was one reason for kind of creating that character and bring her in, and obviously making her a competitive person who actually wants to do what's great, but do it with the passion and the relentlessness of having the focus in humanity. So that's one piece. Bringing the philosophy major, Sam Summer, who is doing a PhD by deconstructing ancient Indian texts, which is the Mahabharata as one of them. And the Mahabharata is a history thing. But everything that we've learned about humanity, everything that we learn about how we should operate, every culture, every older culture in their narratives and stories has taught us those lessons of how to be good, how to be better, what not to be, right? What you don't want to be the villain along the way. And those principles are the ones that allowed society to develop over time. But those are timeless principles because they deal with all of the foundational aspects of our insecurities, our hearts, our needs, our desires, our aspirations, our fears, our insecurities. And so taking that learning, what social science has done is taken that grounding and put a scientific frameworks around each of those. And so putting those to, inspiration coming from how people even 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, address similar issues that we deal with today. We can learn from the past, right? Sun Tzu's Art of War is still one of the foundational pieces of knowledge in every military school program everywhere around the world, right? That was 3,500 years ago, right? Those principles are grounded, right? Musashi's 5 rings, grounded. What social science has done is brought a scientific framework that people in our world today can understand, given the fact that we want to have evidence around what we are going to invest in. And what modern management principles has done is now taken those principles and how am I going to implement them and activate them so that I can actually see the results on the business and what are the steps to actually activating them. So putting that diversity of thought and intent and experience together is why, if in the book, it gets you to an answer that's more holistic and connected, and therefore improves the odds of success at a significant level. And that's the approach I've used to kind of build a lot of, or help build a lot of large companies and brands where, we've made billions of dollars of value for people because it is a very, very disruptively different way of operating a business than the legacy.
Yeah. So if you're looking at, and I said the work that you've done, I mean, and the book is about the brand, but if you're looking at a brand that is, maybe has lost some of the shine or is kind of, your Peloton isn't a bad example, right? What we're talking about, but a struggling brand. So if one of the challenges, if the brand was, particularly if it's come from kind of a position of it's been great, it's been wonderful, it's been fantastic, and then suddenly it starts going down, it's very hard to kind of get it to come back up and recover. But when the brand is going down, if they call you in, what are the sort of things that you look at to help them actually to recover that?
Yeah. And so that's a great question. The way we approach it, and the way I approach it is very simple. You look at all of the business stuff. You look at what is happening with the business because those are symptoms that you see, right? So step one we look at is, are you clear about who you're serving? First, do you really know who you're serving? 2, do you really know what problem you're solving? 2, then 3, do you clearly have an articulation that they can understand about the problem you're solving, which is what we call setting expectations, right? As a way. And then 4, is your organization, is your team, are your suppliers, are your employees, everybody aligned to deliver the solution in a way that is empathetic and authentic to solve that? So let's talk about another problem, right? Another kind of company at a conceptual level. We work with an outdoor living company that had multiple brands that had been acquired through acquisition. And they were now trying to kind of, so they built a nice little business and the business was not growing. Right. And and they bought a bunch of strong brands that were growing, and then they put them together to stop growing and slow down, and were getting more commoditized and feeling a lot of pressure on price from their retail channels and stuff like that. And they had a terrific management team. That terrific management team made up of a number of ex-consultants, right, from some of the big names. And we got brought in because they had tried out a number of different strategies and tactics to figure out where they could take the business. And so we got brought in. I remember the conversation with the CEO of the company. It was on Sunday afternoon. And he called and goes, listen, I was asked to reach out to you because you're supposed to be this magician that can help drive the growth. And I'm only talking to you. I've got great talented people and stuff like that. And I'm just calling you because we don't have the time and the bandwidth to kind of figure out how to solve it. And we were told that you can get it done. And I said, I don't think you're calling me because you don't have the time to get it done and your people know how to get it done. I said, because your people will never get to the answers that we will. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, because you are looking at your business from the inside out, and you're looking at your business as a problem, that the business is a problem. And I said, that's your problem. You're not looking at it from what is your customer need and what problem for the customer do you need to solve? And do you even know who your customer is? Do you even know how to frame the problem? Silence. So I said, great. So he goes, yeah, but that all sounds great. It's theoretical. Why don't you come in and meet with the executive team and then walk us through your thinking in some ways. And so a week later, we walked out there and walked them through the thinking and said, Here's what we believe your customer is. And we got enough data sources to go do that, right? And anybody could do that. It's just you got to be able to look for it. I said, this is what your customer is. Your customer base is 55 to 75. Right? Because the way you're marketing and where you're marketing and the products you're kind of positioned. The growth in your category and your industry is happening with people who are 35 to 55. Right. Okay, now that's a demographic statement, right? That's a big group of people. But not all of them want to buy your product, will buy your product. So what you need to understand is within this large group, let's call them millennials to make it easy. There is going to be people who want your product and who want your product for a specific reason. Step one, let's go find them. And what we did was we did a segmentation exercise. And unlike a lot of segmentation stuff that happens, we get 11 different segments, they're all attitudinal, and nobody knows how to kind of reach out to them. We built out 4 segments, and it's very clear. Segment A, small, but with bigger impact because they are the ones who are actually leading. So if you think about the diffusion of innovation, right? There's innovators, early adopters, and then, majorities, and then the laggards, right? There are people who are here in every category that are going to basically define the future of a category. And that, and so we literally then found those people, understood the kind of problems they had that nobody in the category was solving, and then connected that with what these guys could do to solve. Right? And then we built a platform that says, hey, you know what? In your category, they don't believe there's a single brand that understands their needs because every brand is talking about a problem. Hey, this is how great my product is, so you should buy it. They're not buying product, they're buying a solution. They're buying an outdoor living experience. And here's what they need. And then connecting those 2 dots from a human standpoint, first year, these guys are skeptics. First year, the business was up 32%.
Wow.
Versus they were growing at 9 or 10%, which in the category was a disruptive growth rate. First year, they grew 32%. Next year, they grew 31% on top of 32, right? Because what happened was they were able to set a very clear expectation of what problem that brand was solving for which person. Yeah. And today, you go to that company and you talk to them, they will be able to tell you that they are actually building a specific set of products for this individual person and that person's name, right? Right. And when you can get to that clarity, and that is what, companies are customer-centric model, blah, 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 blah. And then you look at it and go, okay, great. So tell me who your customer is. Yeah. And they go, huh. So every one of our clients and this has been, over decades, right? If you walk into any of our clients that we've done transformation, right? That transformation comes out of a very simple idea of they know the customer. This company went IPO in the middle of COVID. It was the largest IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. Wow. In the middle of COVID, right? 2 years into them executing the strategy that we work with them on. And now they're completely committed to, that model, because once you understand who your customer is, John, it's so easy to figure out what problems you're solving, what you're not. Interesting what it also does, it allows you to save money because you're no longer doing all of the stuff trying to be everything to everybody. Yeah. Right? And so you cut a lot of this stuff down, you deploy it on a focus alignment. Your salespeople know who they're selling to, the channel knows who they're selling to, right? You can focus a business along that. But at the foundation, what that builds is trust. Yes. I can trust this brand. Why? Because this brand understands my needs. Yeah. Understands my, expectations. And they've set me the expectation, they're solving my problem, and they're doing it well. Yeah.
One of the questions that I had in mind, and I actually think you just answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I said at the very beginning that very often you're referred to as a futurist. And my question was around, as a futurist, the message to people listening in their businesses, what must they focus on to thrive? My guess is you're going to say it comes back to the person.
No, so I think the individual person, it's important for them to understand that to kind of win today, right? but it also builds you a platform to win in the future with that person. But to future-proof your business, right? You need what I call a future-forward insight, right? And what a future-forward insight is not just what's going to get you into the game today, but how it generates inspiration, like ideas, solutions, services, capabilities, right? That your brand can continue to accrue and expand its footprint with you. So talking about this company that I was talking about, it's a company, they started off as a decking company, right? And when we found the strategic value target and when we framed the solution for them, these people don't just want a deck. They want the exterior, the outside of their home to become the other living space, right? So the future aspect came about is how do you now take, instead of becoming a decking company, we had them reframe themselves as an outdoor living experiential company, which led them to kind of doing acquisitions of pergolas, right?
Yes, yeah,
acquisition and building partnerships with sound systems and fire pits, right? And stuff like that, so that you can now become a ritual and resonant within that. So you move from selling a product to solve a problem to create an experience that solves the problem in a much deeper way. And that's only future-proofs you, because you now know how your growth's going to happen and how your growth can be congruent. Because you're taking that one person saying, okay, I give them a deck. Now they can have a pergola with me, right? Now they take my material and build a balcony or a porch in front of the house, right? And now they can work through my partnerships and actually get maybe sound systems installed out there so they can play the music, right?
Mm.
It just starts changing the context, and that's what allows our clients to shape the future. Because most companies try to respond to the future, right? They kind of go, okay, the world's going to change, right? And that's why we have this tactical discussion like generative AI is yours, going to change the world. Well, guess what? AI has been around for 20 years. It just happened to become generative. But that's just kind of giving you a simpler way to get your answer. But that's not what the future is. The future is different. You got to look at it in the context of where it's going to go and how me as a human being in that category define it. And that is how you future-proof businesses, right? We work, with a company called Masonite, which is the largest door manufacturer. New CEO came in 2019. Brilliant guy, right? Huge ambition, but amazingly intuitive leader. And they went to the commodity category in 2019. And today they are a disruptor in a category where the doors were seen as invisible, right? People never paid any attention. You tell them, what kind of door do I don't know. How many doors? I don't know. What do you use the door for? To open and shut, right? And now it's gone to the doors are actually solving living and life problems for people. And the stock price is up dramatically, right? They've almost added $1 billion+ on top line in the last couple of years and stuff like that. And they have a plan and a roadmap that's 10 years into the future. And they're investing in the same human to understand how they can keep serving the same human and their homes and their families in different ways, highly congruent, complete alignment with the organization, and driving huge economic value for them, and therefore success.
Wow. Zain, I said I was going to take about 20 minutes of your time, and I've taken at least double that. But the conversation has been fantastic, and I just love the way you're talking. I love the message you get, and I love the whole way you convey the story with the pyramid puzzle. Before we wrap up and get people, you can tell people where they can get in touch with you and get the book. 2 questions I ask everybody. First is a book other than your own that's had an impact upon you. What's the book and what was the impact?
Yeah, so I think I might actually answer with 2. Okay, but I'll start with the first one. When the first one is a book called The Science of Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini from Arizona State University, right? I met Robert many, many years ago when I first kind of was there, and he just launched the book. I think it's one of the most powerful books to understand how to persuade people. And for me, I've learned from those principles. It's definitely added to my ability to be successful professionally and personally, because he's taken the science of human beings, the social science that we're talking about, and connected into outcomes. So if anybody's interested, I would strongly recommend Dr. Cialdini's book as the one.
What was the name again?
The Science of Persuasion.
The Science of Persuasion. Okay, great. I haven't come across that one. The other, you said you had a second book?
Yeah, my second book, and we kind of mentioned Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Right? Sun Tzu's Art of War, because I think if you think about all of the principles he talks about, they're actually the most foundational principles that, from a human standpoint, and he talks about it in the context of war, but it's also the context of how relationships happen, and when you want to lean back, when you want to lean forward, when you want to basically protect your flanks. It's from a winning team standpoint, that is one of the most powerful books anybody wants to read.
Yeah, and does it stand the test of time, which is extraordinary.
Really, right?
It really does. Second question is daily rituals. If you have them, are you happy to share them and what they do for you?
Yeah, so I think I may have mentioned this, right? I have ADD, which means I get bored. So I have a very simple daily ritual. Every morning I wake up at 4:30, right? I walk down and I make my Starbucks Columbia coffee, right? In my big travel mug, half and half, Land O'Lakes half and half, can't be anything else. Brown coconut sugar, can't be anything else. Walk up to my study and I write for an hour and a half. And I write, I write anything that comes to my mind. And that's how this pyramid puzzle became. I wrote 2 other business books. I've got 2 published, wrote 2 other books, one in 20, one in 21. And then I just said, I don't want to write traditional business books. I want to write a business book that somebody is going to enjoy reading, right? And because I'm a big reader of history and therefore historical fiction and all of that stuff, I said, I'm going to write a business novel, right? And not write it as a story. And so I write a lot. So that's my first hour. Then if my Peloton was on, right? And if I had a seat on my Peloton, I'd go ride it for about 20, 25, 30 minutes while I watch some early morning news. And then I get ready and I just either get in a car to come to the office, or if I'm traveling, I get ready and head out to the airport. And then during the day, if I'm in the office, normally I don't have any control on that ritual other than whatever, my team sends me or my clients want me. But then at 4 o'clock, I always take a break for 30 to 45 minutes and I walk across all of the places, offices, cubes of everybody in the company, just to stop by and say hello. And if I'm in my New York office, I do the same thing. If I'm in my Chicago office, I do it. If I'm at my client's place, I always call a timeout at 4 and I walk around to go say hello to everybody. That's my way of decompressing and just reconnecting with people, not on a transactional basis, right? And then once I get done with that, I kind of sit down and I kind of look at my emails and start clearing it up. And then I drive home, hopefully to hang out with my wife and my daughter's been with us for the last 6 months and it's been a joy, even though she's moving out of the house next month. And then after that, I read for a while. I walk into my music room. I pick up my guitar, right? Mess around with some songs. That calms me down. Like writing fires me up in the morning. And then I hopefully get some sleep.
Fantastic. Zain, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I really want to thank you for it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love the way you think. I love the way you explain things. Where can people get in touch with you? We'll put everything in the show notes, but if they're listening right now, how can they reach out to you?
I think one way is at zainraj.com, right? That's my website, and it has the ability for people to kind of ping me an email from there. The other way is shapiroraj.com. So my email is zain@shapiroraj.com. So, you can get me there. Those are 2 places. I'm not going to give you my mobile number because I do not need unsolicited phone calls until at least I've had a chance to meet somebody via an email or something else.
Perfect. Zain, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure and real honor, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise, and I appreciate, I think the question, but I think your style of just allowing the conversation to organically go places. I hope your viewers and listeners get some value out of it, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Not at all. It's been a real pleasure, and I can guarantee you they will get a lot of benefit. So thank you so much.
Likewise, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.